if you're trying to be a leader that sits up as an idol, well, now anytime that the employees see a falter or a slip or something they don't like, it's going to be very hard for them to keep believing in the mission.
Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome. We got him back, Mr. Chase Tolleson in the house. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. I mean, I get to get on the mic and create some hot fire with you. Let's go.
Get on the mic, Mike. So we're each going to pick a topic. We're going to chat about it. And one of the skills, especially as you're a leader or you're running a company or you have multiple employees, I feel like I have an analogy that I use because I come from the restaurant business, and I call it the hostess mind. Okay. And let me walk you through it. So you walk into a restaurant, there's two sides of the restaurant. There's three servers on task. The whole left side of the restaurant is closed, and you want to sit over there. And she says, sorry, no, you got to sit over here, even though it's 2 feet from the thing. They haven't been trained to think past the first layer.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when a situation happens per se, or a bad thing happens, I have to think about, okay, this is so ridiculous, but who was that child as a kid? How was he raised? Is there anything going on in his life that would be this? Is this the actual reason? And most of the time, you can dilute that all the people arguing in the situation want to get to the same place. They just have emotions or childhood patterns, not getting them to that center point.
Yeah. You're speaking my language. Everybody may want to go to the top of the mountain, but they're starting from different sides of it, and they can't see the path that other people can see.
Mm.
And
then you as a leader get frustrated because you're like, I don't understand. You don't want this?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but and like I heard it today on a podcast. This guy who's got $100 million HVAC business was saying, like, if your employees every day are waking up and they're saying, I'm going to go fight for you and grow your company for you, then you have a really effed up thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I want them excited, but I wanted them excited for their reasons that feed into the bigger reasons.
Well, that's a true leader right there. You know, if you're trying to be a leader that sits up as an idol, well, now anytime that the employees see a falter or a slip or something they don't like, it's going to be very hard for them to keep believing in the mission, believing in the drive. If they have a reason to do it for themselves, that stays burning regardless.
And so, you know, you have your tactics, but how does one, meaning a human, get into what I would classify as second and third tier thinking, like deeper layer thinking, instead of just, you know, the best quote of all time I've ever heard is to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you learn to think about your thinking, you become free on a whole new level. Mm-hmm. And as far as like how humans do it, like put down the 8th self-help book or the 4th podcast of the day and just do it. Stop over consuming and driving that noise in your head back to the back of your head and let it come up. And as opposed to like when it comes up, like, okay, I'm going to I'm going to sit with that for like a whole 3 to 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to see what else comes up. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm going to ask for a couple minutes, what's beneath that? And then next thing we know, we get to that third layer and like, oh, that's what I actually want. That's what's actually bothering me. Mm. And it can be that simple.
And most won't do that because they're distracted by, you know, their phones, or they're distracted by, you know, TV or something else, or alcohol or drugs.
Dude, phones are phones are more insidious in my opinion, more insidious of a barrier to emotional intelligence and self-awareness, personal development than alcohol and drugs, because like those are blatantly obvious that you're consuming a substance. A phone, you got it in your pocket, and you don't even realize that something uncomfortable came up. You're just gonna like, oh well, before that even gets to the surface, I'm gonna get some dopamine. Oh, I feel good. Look at these motivational reels. And then a month later, you're in $5,000 more debt, and you don't know why, because Andrew Tate said that you're a man and you can go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so I think this all revolves around the fact that we are. Let's use a W-2, for instance, right? Let's unpack that. So you've been hoisted, because we've hired some people from the more corporate space recently. You've been hoisted into a leadership role, but you've been given no training on how to lead people. And the only example that you have to lead people, look, this is a actual statement from a guy that accepted a job position yesterday. This is a real live statement from his mouth. He goes, "Wow, everybody I speak to in your company is so positive and want to see each other win." He goes, "We actually actively try not to speak to each other at my company."
What?
And you wonder why their division went from 75 million annually a year down to 20 million in the last 5 years.
I don't wonder after hearing that. Don't wonder at all. That's there's something to be said, and I'm taking it out of the W-2 space, and this just happened yesterday. Sarah and I were out in our driveway talking to a neighbor, super nice, right? Like great person. I'm sure we'll hang out with them. They got a kid that's a couple months younger than ours, and we walk inside and Sarah's like, wow, sometimes it takes interactions like that for me to realize how much more positive we talk and we think than other people. And it's a learned skill, and it takes reps, because these people have been operating in companies like that, in families like that, in systems and paradigms like that for so long. It's like, oh, well, that doesn't feel right. Thinking positive, it must just be a bunch of snake oil. I don't know. What if you try it for like longer than 2 hours?
Well, my philosophy on all things, right, especially when I made my shifts, is I might not take in every word that's coming into my ears, whether it be a podcast or a book, but at least it's positive instead of negative, and I'll take that, because over time, that's gonna compound to greater things. So you have to be very protective about what comes in, and this is really crazy, right? And it's not until recently, I'll turn off a show, like a TV show or a show I'm watching, because they're like, there's too much violence, there's too much negativity. Like,
Yep.
I don't even resonate with the show anymore.
Bro, I loved Yellowstone through like the first, I don't know, 3 seasons. And then like during this last season, it starts like becoming really apparent. Like, man, they're all like pouring the booze really heavy. There's very low emotional intelligence. Like, it's like, do I want to keep watching this?
Well,
Like, it was entertaining for the first few seasons.
well, what's interesting, right? A show like that, like the writing is sharp in those first 2 seasons. It's quick wit. You're building the story. Once the story's been built and it's going down the other way, it's all low frequency thought processes, negativity.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's part of the reason Sarah and I barely watch TV anymore, because it's like so much of the programming out there, and you can take that word for whichever meaning you want to ascribe to it, is like that. And it's it reminds me of the Juvenile quote: "Give them bread and circus, and they will never revolt." And whether we're talking about a revolution or not, the revolt or the revolution could be just taking control of your life. It doesn't mean uprising against a tyrannical force or anything. And if you stay in that frequency, you will continue operating on a system that you're unaware of.
So let me give you some tactical advice to walk away from here, and something that I do that I think is very important to you as growing, especially if you're leading people. I allow the team to not only see the problem, but they can fix the solution ahead of getting approval from me. But when you come to me and you give me the final result of that thing, you have to give me the reason you did it and the solution. And then blah, blah, blah. Okay. But then when also I do something, I say, okay, now why did I do it? Not what I did. Not why did you give that customer this refund, or why did you take that $200 off? Well, because this, and this. Like now they've zoomed out through that one transaction. Now they've seen the seeds that have been planted for the transactions from 3 years from now.
Yeah. 100%. It's critical thinking skills.
Exactly. Any resources or books or things that you would recommend to people as we get out of here?
There's a book I really enjoy that The Web of Meaning by Jeremy Lent. And it combines, it's a little off, like it's not, typical personal development, but I believe the subtitle is along the lines of combining or where traditional wisdom and modern neuroscience meet. So if you want to look at like some of the levers that move our brain around, it does a really, really cool job at laying those out.
I love that. And Robert Cialdini's Influence is a highly, highly recommended book. I've consumed it multiple times, probably going to pick it up again.
It's like 18 hours on the audiobook or something.
Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, it's teaching you to influence people, but really what it's teaching you is to influence yourself.
Yeah, and I'll tack one on that note. Start with no.
Okay.
That one I heard of in Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. So I went back and I read the source material, and that one was really good.
The only thing when you're teaching clients, when you're coaching clients, and then they start reading the books that you've read or study the things you do, they'll come back like 6 months later and they go, "Oh, I see what you were doing to me."
Yeah,
you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah. What?
All
What do
right.
you? Yeah.
Well, guys, remember what was the line about the mountain again? Because that was so good. Give them one more time while we get out of here.
Most everybody wants to go to the top of the mountain. We're all just standing on different sides of it, looking at different paths, and oftentimes unable to see the path that other people are looking at.
I love that. Guys, if you got some value from this episode, send it around to some friends, and we'll see you next time.
Guys, let me take a minute to tell you about my buddies over at Lead Hub, Ben and Aaron, the best humans I know. Not only are they amazing at marketing for trade companies, but Ben started his HVAC company in his garage, sold it for multi-million-dollars. So when this guy talks, I listen. When we took over Dietz Mechanical, we had 22 reviews in 22 years. In 7 short months, we went from 22 reviews to 107. We went from a 4.2 to a 4.7. We tripled our Facebook presence and we tripled our calls. If you're an HVAC, plumbing, electric, landscaping company, and you're looking for a no BS approach to marketing, you're looking for people who have done it before, you got to go to leadhub.net